Welcome to Whispers to a Bride, where we talk about the stuff no one else is talking about. We are going deep on the emotional aspects of getting married, the stress, drama, and turbulence that affects your own sense of identity and your closest relationships. We are talking about what it means to be a bride and how to navigate this sacred time with more grace and ease. I'm your host, Kara Gassabay. As a life coach and therapist, I'm going to be sharing super practical tips so that you can not only rise to the occasion of your wedding, but also your life. Hi, and welcome back. I am recording this at like 10 o'clock at night because I just didn't want the day to end without jumping on and talking about this topic. We lose the way. And this is, I'm going to just do a bit of like a walkthrough of a client session that I had today, a bridal session I had with just a truly remarkable woman. I don't know how, whatever sort of like filters the universe has between me and my people, like I get the most incredible, insightful, just thoughtful, deeply feeling, considerate clients. I don't know how to explain like how much I love the women that end up coming in and booking these calls with me. It's so, so cool. And it's funny because this particular case, the little like pre-work, the way that she described her problem, I thought we were going to be dealing with some sort of like family tensions. And there was just this overall feeling of like, I'm so frustrated. This other person in my life has gotten engaged recently. Their wedding seems to like have taken all of the attention and I'm just feeling like deflated and defeated and so whatever. And then when we got on the phone, it ended up just being such a different conversation. And that is one thing I do want to say. It happens so often. My clients like present with one issue and it ends up this session and what we talk about and what we go into ends up just always being something really different or just to the left or the thing that they almost didn't say or they didn't really realize was under the thing that they thought was a problem. Anyway, super common in all kinds of therapy, but it always just like delights me because it's like, oh, okay, what are we in for? And that's the importance of, I think, creating a space where you can show up and really trust the process that like whatever needs to be talked about and discussed, like will be the right thing. And it's always just like a fun, exciting journey. But anyway, this particular bride sort of was just feeling really frustrated and overwhelmed with the planning process and just not into it anymore, just bummed. And so we went through, her feelings and what had been going on. And it really turned out that she had kind of ended up planning a wedding she didn't really like. Like she wasn't excited about it in the way that she thought she would be. Or in this case, this other person in her life who had recently gotten engaged and started wedding planning was just bringing a whole different energy and enthusiasm, which at first really annoyed her. But then we decided like, hold on, what if this other person's excitement and joy and sort of wedding bridal obsession, what if that rubbing up against you and annoying you was a good thing? It was trying to tell you something. And in the end, what we sort of came to, which is what she knew on some level, right? You don't come to me because I know something about your life. You come to me because like you need someone to witness you, hear yourself, know what you already know. I am here to help you want what you want, claim your truth, like work through your fears, right? You have the answers. I'm just helping you allow yourself the space to really get in touch with them or play with them or confront them, whatever it is. And then strategize a little bit about like how to deal with the people around you who are going to be affected by it or driving you nuts or whatever. So anyway, what we sort of arrived at was that she kind of originally wanted a more intimate, casual kind of wedding. And her fiance very much wanted that small, low-key, not a big grand affair thing. But she had gotten herself sort of down this other path of a more, urban, bigger, more traditional affair with all of the, all of the things that go with that. And she's put deposits down, there's still months to go, but she's already just not feeling good about it. And just figuring out that her ickiness wasn't really about this other person who was planning a wedding with so much gusto. It was really just that it was pointing out her own feeling of disconnect with her own wedding and feeling how did I lose my way, right? How did I get over here? And we talked through how it happens to almost everyone, right? Especially if it's your first time in wedding world. There are so many narratives, there's so many pressures, there's so many unspoken things. There are so many things that we didn't realize we were just kind of doing by default, doing to please our parents or doing to prove a point or doing because it seemed easier or that's what other people do. We've talked on this podcast many times, how easy it is to get sort of swept into planning an affair that all of a sudden you don't even recognize yourself as even wanting, right? You sort of back into it. And so this was a really cool moment where she could just push pause on everything and say okay, if I could, right, what would I do if I was allowed to do anything? And, she really talked through that she would do a pivot and switch to a whole kind of different style of wedding, different venue, different guest list, whole different vibe. And that's a little jarring, right? Because you have to there's going to be money that's lost, deposits that are probably not coming back. There are, narratives out there in her network of wait, I thought you were doing this kind of thing and now you're not, right? So just the chatter among people. There's just the logistics of replanning a wedding and sort of starting over. And then there's just the it feels funny in some ways to be does it make more sense to maybe just continue down the path if I'm not going to save money in the end? And so it turned out though that she really did have a really strong feeling about this more casual, intimate affair that she had maybe originally felt truer to her and to her fiance and to some of their other just, circumstances with family and stuff. And so it was just a really beautiful moment to witness her get just really clear and really honest and allow herself to stop and weigh the risks of continuing forward versus making a change. And again, there's not a wrong way, but there's a way to do it so that you can really own your story and your narrative and not regret it later. And this is one of those cases where it's wow, you're having this realization with lots of months to go. So it's going to be really hard to pretend you didn't know that you wanted to do something different, right? So many people have a wedding and then they look back and they're whoa, I would not do that again because it wasn't what I thought. That's a different kind of regret. If you already know ahead of time this isn't what you want and yet you still pursue it, sometimes you have to because of lots of factors. But she was able, it feels like she's able to thread this needle where logistically and emotionally and just relationally, she can make this switch. Of course, there will be challenges, but she can do it. It's a really cool thing to just witness somebody reclaiming it. And when we were talking through it, it's it was just to feel her energy come through and the lightning. It was the clarity was just bringing so much joy back into her, the tone of her voice and just how she was thinking. And it felt like the inspiration. And again, all of this has already been happening in her mind. It was just, I think in our session was that little moment that she had carved out for herself to really, really, really do a deep dive and without anybody else's voice, right, from her support system, a total stranger, someone like me who's just got no skin in the game. She can do whatever. It doesn't matter to me, but just really helping her hear what does she most want to do and how does she want to proceed from here and how does she want to think about it. And it was so cool too to just hear the way she wanted to describe her wedding and how much it really lined up with how she wanted to live her life. And the word comfortable came up a lot. And it wasn't comfortable like, oh, we're going from this glamorous venue, downtown venue, to like a backyard wedding to be comfortable. So it was like this sweatshirt and beer vibe. It was more of just this idea of comfortable being like, there's an ease, there's a naturalness to it. Like we're throwing out timelines and checking the boxes of first dances and this and that. It's more just, it was about being together and enjoying each other's company and celebrating and being connected and just letting the day unfold and be just really easy and natural and comfortable and casual and light and fun and spontaneous and just kind of, that whole vibe, which is just, it's the way she was describing it. It sounded so, so great. And it was so much more true to who she and her fiance really are and how they choose to live their life and their values, right? What matters to them. And it was so interesting to hear her describe, as we're talking, like, how does it feel to think of this new wedding vision and this whole new just idea and concept? And she's like, it just feels more authentic and more enjoyable. And I'm like, authentic and enjoyable. Like those are such great guiding principles and feeling states for a wedding and for a life and for a relationship. Like what isn't better if it's more authentic and more enjoyable? So I just really wanted to like share that with you guys to remind you of like, so for her, being more authentic and enjoyable meant a more intimate, casual, comfortable, smaller guest list event without a lot of the traditional trappings that we see on like the mood boards. And for you, something more authentic and enjoyable might be totally different, right? It might be a destination, or it might be over the top florals, or it might be a huge bridal party, or it might be no bridal. Like there's so many different ways that those words are translated, but I think they are really great words to sort of filter your wedding vision through. And maybe they'll help you if you are having a sort of little moment of being at a crossroads in your wedding planning, like this bride was, where it was like, obviously I can keep going, but I'm feeling like something else is nagging at me and I want to pause and see if I should make a left turn here, if there's an off ramp that I need to take, despite the challenges of, losing money and, all the things that happen when we change our minds. But the coolest thing that we also sort of talked a little bit about was the idea that like, it couldn't have been any other way. Nothing has gone wrong. There was no mistake that was made, even though in some way she feels like this is weird because I'm kind of coming back to a vision that like I kind of had all along and I lost myself. And then coming back is the key. It's always about the return. And I was telling her about this. I think it's a Yoruba proverb. I heard it from my mentor, Fabeku Fatumishe, years ago, and it always has stuck with me. We lose the way to find the way, right? Like this idea that like the only point of being on sort of the right path is that like we know that because we went off it. And it's the going off it that reminds us that we're back on it. And so I was really helping her to see that just this was the way that it was going to go. And it felt like she was feeling even probably more convicted and connected to that original vision than she would have been had she not sort of taken this long way around with planning this other event. So anyway, I just wanted to come on and share that with you. If you're feeling like you've lost the way and you want to go back, but you don't feel like you can, and that's a really, really, really hard place to be. And my heart goes out. And you might not even know, right? Like this bride didn't even present with like, I feel like I want to plan a different wedding. Like she was like, I'm frustrated at this other person in my life who's planning their wedding with a different energy. And I'm just feeling like over it. And I'm feeling like people don't care. Like, right. There was this feeling of discontent, but it wasn't quite articulated in this way. And then of course by the time she had gotten to me, she had really started to hone in on what it was and the possibility that this could solve everything. And it's just really cool. So if you are having this feeling of being a bit lost or being a little angry, frustrated, that's the other key. That is often a good sign that like we need to pay attention to something. We're not just like bitchy for no reason. We're often like feeling like triggered or upset or frustrated or like really mad because something's trying to get our attention. And so we can lean into that, listen to that, try to decipher what is the message. You will just bring so much more peace to your life, your wedding, your relationships. So hopefully this is helpful. And you know, I am always here for whatever wild ride you want to take us on in your bridal session. But I'm telling you, it will be worth it. This sweet, sweet bride said to me, she's like, this hour has been like the best money I have spent. Like she was so feeling it. And again, not because I did anything, but because she was able to hear herself and ask herself the hard questions and figure out like whose voice was in her head, like at different points along the way. And so all of that stuff is just such a reminder that like we're not meant to do this alone. So if you are needing help, please reach out. I am always here for you. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you nothing but bridal bliss.